Before we go anywhere, let's take a breath together. So inhaling through your nose and slowly exhaling. Good. So I want to say something before we start this episode, because I planned to talk about the good things religion gave us. But to be balanced, to be fair, to be honor of what is real, and I mean that, but I've been sitting with this, rewriting things, looking at it again, and I realized that I didn't want to do that. Because if I'm going to do this series, and if I'm going to ask you to question what you believe, if I'm going to ask you to see clearly, then I need to be clear too. I need to lay down what I actually believe. Not what sounds balanced, not what sounds diplomatic, not what won't offend people. What I actually believe. And here it is. Religion, institutional religion, was designed to divide and conquer. It's not an accident, it's not a flaw, it's design. And I'm going to show you how. So let me start here, because this is important. The organ, the bells, the incense, the candles, the sacred geometry in the buildings, the ritual, the community, the gathering, the things that feel sacred in the church didn't create those. They stole them. They took sacred tools, healing technologies that were already being used, already working, already transforming people's lives, and they appropriated them. They repackaged them as Catholic. And they made them feel like they belonged in the institution. But they didn't. Frequency, vibration, sacred geometry, herbal medicine, rituals, energy work, these are all ancient. They are all universal. And they all work because they are rooted in something real. In how the human body responds to sound, scent, meaningful making, to community. The church didn't invent any of that. They took it. They wrapped it in robes, Latin, and authority, and made people believe it was theirs. Here's where it gets strategic. The church understood something fundamental. Humans need ritual. Humans need beauty. Humans need frequency and vibration and scent and community. These things are all healing. So the church took those tools, those real working healing tools, and used them. But here's the genius part. While they are using the same tools to heal people inside the church, they were demonizing everyone else who used the same exact tools outside the church. Tarot, demonized. Herbalism, witchcraft, demonized. Energy work, witchcraft, demonized. Trusting your intuition, witchcraft, demonized. Sacred geometry, witchcraft, demonized. But a Catholic uses sacred geometry in their church and calls it divine. A Catholic uses herbs in their rituals and calls it blessed. A Catholic uses frequency and vibration in their bells and organs and calls it holy. Same tools, completely different names, completely different power. One is acceptable, one gets you burned at the stake. It's not coincidence, it's strategy. And that strategy is called divide and conquer. You divide people. You make some people the good ones, and the ones using the sacred tools inside the institution, and then you make others the bad ones. And those are the ones that are using the same tools outside the institution. They make them fight each other. You make them afraid of each other, and you make it so they never unite. Because if the witches and the Catholics realize they're using the same tools, serving them the same human need for healing and meaning, the church would then lose its monopoly on salvation. It would lose its power, so you keep them divided. You keep them afraid. you keep them believing that one is holy and one is evil. Meanwhile, the institution extracts money from both sides, sells salvation in one, burns the other at the stake, and profits from fear, the division, and the control. So what did the church take? They took our access to the sacred. They said, the sacred is not inside you, the sacred is in our building, in our priests, in our institution. They took our power. They said, you cannot heal yourself, you need us. You need our permission, and you need our forgiveness. They took our intuition. They said, don't trust yourself, trust us. Don't trust authority, trust the intuition, institution. I'm going to get those mixed up. So they said, don't trust yourself, trust us. Trust authority, trust the intuition. Institution, if I can stop mixing those up. They took our sexuality. They said, your body is dangerous. Your desire is sinful. Your pleasure will damn you. They took our sisterhood, the ancient, powerful, healing sisterhood of women who knew herbs and energy and how to work with the natural world. And they all called it witchcraft and burned them. They took our freedom, they took our anatomy, they took our connection to something real and something direct and personal, and they replaced it with dependence. So I do watch a lot of Outlander. I love it. I love Outlander. I love it because what Claire does, and she does this, and she has to be super careful so she's not perceived as a witch because she's a healer. So they have to be very careful with that. Not saying that she came back 200 years and she knows how to do medical stuff and females didn't do it back then. So yeah. But now I want to talk about things I loved. The organ, God. I love the organ, that sound. My grandmother used to have an organ and I loved it. But we didn't take it with us when we moved. And just the way it fills that space, the bells, the incense, the candles, the ritual, these things are very real. They work because they're rooted in something true, in frequency and vibration, and how human nervous systems respond to these things. But here's what I understand now. Those things didn't belong to the church. The church was using them, which is fine. These tools are meant to be used. But the church was also telling people that if I used those same tools outside of church, I was evil. That if I burned incense at my home, I was called a witchcraft. That if I used herbs for healing, it was witchcraft. That if I trusted my own intuition about what was sacred, it was witchcraft. So I couldn't even enjoy the beauty of those things without the poison of the shame. I couldn't receive the healing of the frequency without the fear of damnation. Fear of damnation. The institution had weaponized the sacred. And I want to be really clear about something. The demonizing wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate. They needed to demonize sexuality because women who trusted their own sexuality is a woman who can't be controlled. They needed to demonize herbalism and tarot and intuition because people who actually trust their own knowing doesn't need the church to tell them what the truth is. They needed to demonize women who knew things, who had knowledge, who had power, who had agency, so that they could burn them and extract their properties. This wasn't about theology. It was about power. It's about money. It's about control. And it still is. So when I say religion was designed to divide and conquer, here's what I mean. It's divided from ourselves, divide us from ourselves, divide women from their power, divide people from their intuition. It divided communities from each other, us versus them, saved versus damned, holy versus evil. It divided us from the sacred, and then sold us back with access to the sacred through the institution. It divided our bodies from our spirits, told us the body was sinful, the spirit was sacred, and only the church could bridge that gap. And while we were divided, fighting with each other, afraid of each other, dependent on the institution got richer, more powerful, more untouchable. And here's what I believe now, 45, after 25 years of searching, that the sacred is not in a building. The sacred is inside of you. The healing is not in a priest. The healing is your own nervous system, your own body, your own capacity to regulate and return to yourself. The healing is in our own nervous system, our own bodies, our own capacity to regulate and return to self. The tools, the frequency, the vibration, herbs, ritual, community, beauty, these work because they're real. But they don't belong to the church. They belong to humanity. They've always belonged to humanity. The church just tried to convince you otherwise. And demonizing all the fear about witchcraft and tarot and intuition and sexuality and power, that was never about those things being evil. It was about keeping you small, keeping you dependent, keeping you divided from yourself and from each other. So what do we do with this? We take it back. We take back the sacred. Not from the church. We never needed to take it from them. It was never theirs. We take it back from our own minds. We reclaim our access to the sacred. We reclaim our intuition. We reclaim our bodies. We reclaim the knowledge that there is sacred tools, frequency, herbs, rituals, energy work. These are ours. They're not witchcraft, they're wisdom. And we've had access to them the whole time. The church just tried to convince you, we didn't. So this series exists to help you see the clarity, to help you understand what was done for you, how and why, or done to you, how and why, to help you reclaim what was taken, and to help you build something new, something rooted in your exact experience of the sacred, not in institutions' control of it. Because here's what I know. When you reclaim the sacred as yours, when you understand that God, Source, the divine, whatever you want to call it, is inside you, you become very hard to control, you become very hard to divide, and you become very hard to keep small. And that's really what it's about. But I need to be really clear about something else, because this changes everything. Religion taught you that God was outside of you. The devil is outside of you. That heaven and hell are places that you go after you die, depending on whether you obeyed. That's a lie. Here's the truth. God is inside you. The divine source, the sacred intelligence that runs through all creation, is inside you, right now. But so is what we call the devil. Not a literal demon with horns and a pitchfork, but the negative aspects of yourself, the fear, the doubt, the self-sabotage. These parts want to keep you small. The destructive impulses, the self-hatred, that is the devil. And it's inside you too. So your job, your real job, is not to obey the external God and fear the external devil. Your job is to know both sides of yourself, to recognize the divine inside you, to recognize the shadow of fear, to recognize the shadow, the fear, the darkness inside you, and to choose which one you're going to feed. Which one are you going to listen to? Which one are you going to let run your life? And here's the part that changes everything. Heaven is not a place up there. Heaven is a state of being. Heaven is what you create when you are aligned with the divine inside you. When you're connected to yourself, when you're living from love, when you're regulated, present, and at peace, that is heaven. It's here, it's now, it's something you create every single day through the choices you make. Hell is not a place down there. Hell is a state of being. Hell is what you create when you're disconnected from yourself. When you're living from fear, when you're at war with yourself, when you're anxious, overwhelmed, and controlled by your own shadow, that is hell. And you're creating it now, in this moment, through the choices that you make. So the question becomes, are you creating heaven or hell? Are you feeding the divine inside you or the fear? Are you living from a place of love or from fear? That is your real choice. Not will God let me into heaven, but am I creating heaven in my own life right now? This is why I said religion was designed to divide and conquer. Because if you believe God is outside you, you look for God outside. You need a church, you need a priest, you need permission. You give your power away. But if you know, truly know, that God is inside you, that you have the divine inside you and the shadow inside you, that you are responsible for creating heaven or hell through your choices, then you can't be controlled, you can't be divided, you can't be kept small. You have all the power, and the institution knows this. That is why they had to convince you otherwise. But now you know better. Now you can see it clearly, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So sit with this today. Are you creating your heaven or your hell right now? Which voice are you listening to, the divine or the fear? And what would change if you truly believed you had all the power? And here's the deepest one. What if the whole point of life was not to earn your way to heaven, but to create it right here, right now, through how you show up? So let's close the way we close every episode, by moving out of the thinking mind and direct into experience of what's sacred. Because your body knows, your nervous system knows, that sacred is not outside of you. It's right here, right now, in this breath, in this moment, in you. And you have the power to create heaven or hell with what you do with it. So find a comfortable position. If you're driving, please focus on driving. Do not let your hands rest off that steering wheel. But if you're not driving, let your hands rest. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. And we're going to take 3 nice deep breaths together. Just 3. And with each one, you're connecting directly to something sacred. Not through an institution, not through permission, directly. You're going to make a choice. Are you feeding the divine, or are you feeding the fear? And are you creating heaven or hell? So first breath in through your nose, gently holding at the top. And as you release through your mouth, choosing divine, creating heaven, completely releasing. Second breath in through your nose. Hold. Exhale all the way out and feel that power that's inside you. One more in. Hold and release. That's it. That's the sacred. That's you connected directly to the divine inside you without needing permission, without needing an institution, without needing to hold, not needing to be told what to believe. Just you, just presence, just knowing, and the power to create heaven right now. And that's always available to you. Always. 3 breaths. That's all it takes to remember who you are. Thank you for being here. And thank you for letting me lay down what I actually believe. I know this episode is bold. I know it challenges things. But you deserve clarity. You deserve someone who will tell you the truth and not soften it for comfort. In the next episode, we're going to move into something different. We're talking about God as a conversation and not a command. About what a relationship with the divine actually looks like when we're not mediated by the institution. Because that's what's possible. That's what's real. But before you go, I want to say this. If this landed for you, if you're feeling the anger, the awakening, the reclamation of your own power, you don't have to do this alone. Aligned to Wellness is a space where we can do this together, where we can reclaim the sacred as yours, where we can rewire the beliefs that told you the sacred was outside of you, where we can rebuild the relationship with the divine, not through an institution, but through your direct experience. Everything I am teaching in the series, we practice and we integrate in this membership. And it's all done on your own, in your own safe time. It is a container for real transformation. If you're interested, the link will be below. But whether you join or not, keep watching. Because in the next episodes are where everything else shifts. Where you start to feel what's actually possible. If this landed, share it. Leave a comment. Tell me what came up. The bold ones, the angry ones, the awakening ones. I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.